Does anyone remember these things? They were my childhood. If you don't know, they're called Tamagotchis. Tamagotchis are digital pets that are in this small egg-shaped device, and depending on how you take care of them, they can evolve into different Tamagotchis. And for today's video, I will be drawing two of the most iconic Tamagotchis as people. The first one is Mametchi. He's like the mascot, the face, the main character, you could say, of the Tamagotchis. So let's go. Before jumping right into a finished illustration, I had to design him. If I'm being honest, I'm not an expert character designer. All my OCs look pretty basic. However, I imagine that if Tamagotchis were normal humans, that they would wear everyday clothes, nothing super fancy like. Memetchi has big round eyes, so I tried to translate that shape here. I also imagine him with bangs. Maybe I automatically went to this because most main characters have bangs, but I can't imagine him with super short hair or something spiky, so straight hair with bangs it was. I also wanted to try and have something that would allude to his blue ears. Maybe it's kind of a cheat, but I decided a beanie with ears would work. I also went with this route because, in general, when I thought of what the Tamagotchi's hair color would be as humans, I assumed it would be the main body color, and for Mametchi, it's yellow. So then if that's the case, how would I represent his blue ears? And the solution to that was the beanie. For his clothes, I imagined him wearing something that has an academic vibe. Before designing the Tamagotchis for this video, I watched the Tamagotchi animated show and movie, which is totally not on YouTube by the way. And from what I've gathered, Mametchi loves learning and especially inventing things. He's a nerd, which is so cute. Even on the Tamagotchi wiki, it says his IQ is around 250. Damn, okay Memetchi, I wasn't familiar with your game when I was 7. So yeah, because of this, I kept thinking of him wearing a sweater vest. I couldn't get it out of my mind. I tried to look for other types of clothes on Pinterest, but kept coming back to the sweater vest. Despite this, I felt like something was missing. He has his white standard collared shirt, which is fine, but it wasn't enough. You then see I drew that blue collar or whatever that is on top. It was supposed to be the start of a jacket, but I didn't want to cover up the sleeves and the rest of the vest that much, so I discarded it. But decided to keep the blue collar thing. I guess it's just part of his vest now, I don't know. I then gave him basic pants and shoes. I also added a pattern to the sweater vest, but I changed it in the final illustration to something else. To wrap things up, I drew a sketch of him. I tried to replicate this shot of him here from the show. To be honest, I don't like that sketch, but it doesn't matter. Let's move on. Now for the illustration. I envision him holding a book and pen as if he's thinking and being fascinated of all this new knowledge and ideas he's having. At first, I tried to draw the pose on my own, but struggled with the arms and the book. So what I did is I posed a 3D model, traced over it, and then took only the arms and the book from that and put it into my original sketch I did. Nevertheless, I think the sketch came out okay. Next, I did the line art. I don't have much to say. Line art always feels like a hit or miss. Sometimes I wonder if I should go for really thin line art or more detailed thicker line art. Either way, this part went smoothly. Now I'm doing the background. At first, I thought of him being in a classroom, but then remembered I had this picture I had used in a previous illustration. It's a free-to-use photo from Pexels. I decided to go with this for two reasons. One, because I thought a library would be a fitting place for him to be looking through books. Second, because I was lazy to look for another photo. However, how I used the picture this time was different. As you can see, I extracted the line art from it. In the first artwork I used with it, I only painted over it a little bit and blurred it. But back to the one you're seeing right now. After I extracted the line art from it, I cleaned it up a bit. I didn't want too many black shadows in areas. Once I finished that, I moved on to colors. If you look at official Tamagotchi art and even the mobile app they have, the colors they use are very bright, happy, and colorful. And I wanted to make sure to translate that into here. At first, I made the bookshelf blue because in the show, the drawers in the school were blue. But that just felt too much, so I changed it to a light brownish yellow. For the books though, I made them the color of the rainbow. It was kind of pulling my eyes, and I was debating whether or not this was a good idea or not, but went with it. Eventually, I finished up the background and moved on to coloring Mametchi. The first thing I colored was his hair. The one thing I like about coloring characters that have something on their head is that there is less hair to color. Hair coloring is one of my least favorite things to do. I think it's mostly because I've hardly ever done it in a way I super love. This time though, I think I did decent. When I added extra hair strands later, it made me more happy with it. After the hair, I colored the skin. Skin is usually my favorite part when it comes to coloring, but I felt like the more shading I did, the more uncanny he looked. The eyelids especially made me frustrated. Maybe it's because his eyes are big and round and I've never drawn that eye shape before. Whatever it was, I got it to look fine enough. I then went to color the eyes because I hoped that maybe once I did, it would look better overall. But I tell you, after I added the white highlights and backed away, I realized that something about him looked off. At that moment, I thought I had to scrap this entire artwork. Looking back at the footage though, it was not that bad. I don't know what past me was freaking out for, but she's gone, so I concluded that what made him look weird was his mouth, so I changed it to him slightly opening his mouth instead. That made me kind of sad to change since I really did want to keep the tongue sticking up, but it just had to go. Once that was done, I colored the clothes. Oh, I forgot to talk about the pattern on his vest. I changed it from what I had originally in his character sheet because I was lazy. I know, everyone acts surprised. But this pattern actually came in Krita. I was kind of excited to use it because I've always saw it there, but wondered when will be the day I use it. So yeah, the color shading went smoothly. Nothing specific I have to talk about. I enjoyed shading the white shirt. I've always wanted to shade white clothes to look like that fluid and thin material. I wasn't successful here, but I feel like I'm getting close. Finally, the last thing I wanted to include was the original Tamagotchi. So for here, I put Memetchi on the book. I made him wear a lab coat that he's seen wearing in the My Tamagotchi Forever mobile app. Anyways, the art is wrapping up here. I went through some highs and lows with this one, but I do get a Memetchi vibe from him, which was always the goal, so I'm alright with how it came out. The next Tamagotchi I will be drawing as a person is Memetchi. Let's go! When designing Memetchi, I went straight to drawing the clothes first. I thought it would be easier that way this time. I had ideas for her face and hair, but not so much clothes. I looked on Pinterest for a while before settling on what I'm drawing here. She's very bright and cheerful and loves to have fun. She gives me bestie vibes, honestly. That's why I want her clothes to be flowy and light, nothing too heavy or constricting. As for her hair, I thought it only made sense to give her curly hair. Memetchi loves things that are swirly and curly. The swirl on her head is extremely important to her. So yeah, at first I drew more tighter curls, but wasn't feeling it. Then I tried something more loose and wavy, but I wasn't feeling that either. Therefore, I decided to combine the two a bit. I liked the more tighter looking curls from the first one, but the movement and looseness from the second one, and finally ended up with the one in the middle, which I think was the right choice. Unfortunately, I don't know if I drew the curly hair I had in mind in the final illustration right, but we'll talk about that later. For the colors of her clothes, I went with a warm orange theme because she's orange. Lastly, I made her eyes blue. But guys, I think every single Tamagotchi has blue eyes due to the style they're drawn in. Memetchi though has white sparkles in her eyes, so I made sure to include that as well. The last thing I did here is drew a rough sketch of her. I tried to replicate this image of Memetchi here. I really like how I did the sketch of her. It's messy and her hands are non-existent, but after I finished it, I was like, yes, this is Memetchi. She's so cute. It's simple, but I liked it, and it made me excited to draw the final illustration of her. So now, here we are, doing the sketch for the final artwork. There's a problem though. You see, how I worked on this is that I designed Memetchi first, and then 2 to 3 days later, I designed Memetchi. My main priority at the time was getting emotes done for my Etsy shop, but once that was done, I worked on the Mametchi illustration. That illustration was a lot harder to do than I thought, so when I finally moved on to Memetchi, I was tired, and not to mention I was having a bad day. But not just one bad day, about 3 to 4 bad days, which was when I worked on this. So therefore the illustration became simpler. It's still true to the original idea I had for it. I wanted to draw her holding her phone and looking back as if someone just called out to her. Which I did, but originally I wanted her to also be sitting down outside with a smoothie and a cafe behind her. I was ambitious, and it kind of sucks because I was looking forward more to drawing Memetchi more than Mametchi. One thing I mainly wanted to focus on was her hair. I never really draw curly hair like this, so when I decided to make her have curly hair, I also decided this was going to be a good practice for me. The curliest hair I've drawn is probably my OC Alice's. That's really old art of her from 2021, by the way. I haven't drawn her and her entire friend group in a while because I want to redesign them, but I'm going off topic. Anyways, back to the illustration. As you can see, I did the line out of the curls first, but once again, I was having a bad day and wanted to get this illustration done. So I went from excited to draw and get practice from this to let's speed up, I want it to be done. You probably saw, but I even took the face that I did in the previous sketch because I liked it and wanted to hurry things up. As I was trying to speed through the drawing, I realized the line out I did for the curls were confusing me and I was unsure how to color it. To combat this, I went ahead and painted on top of it. This was much easier to do and it was pretty fun. I was able to relax a bit more. I do like how I was rendering it, but I felt like this was not exactly how I envisioned it. It looks like a bunch of individual swirls instead of a consistent curl from the top of her head down. But yeah, I'm probably not explaining myself right, but basically this was not how I initially imagined her hair to look like, so I am a bit disappointed in myself for it. I'm not even sure what was it I was exactly imagining for her hair, but it didn't look like this. I do think it still fits her, and maybe it actually fits her better. I don't know, tell me what you guys think, because she does love swirly curly stuff, especially the one on her head. Like, her love for it is a big part of her personality, so maybe her curls looking more like the one on top of her head is better? I'm still not sure. Also, please don't get me wrong, I do think the type of curly hair I ended up with is really cute. It's just not what I envisioned initially. It's growing on me though, now looking at it after a couple of days. Anyways, because I took more of a painting approach with her hair, I decided to do that for the rest of her. I prefer doing line art so that's easier to color in the lines, but every time I do paint over in my illustrations like this, it feels much more freeing, but also chaotic since I feel less organized. For the future, I want to try and change how I do things so there's more balance in my workflow. But yeah, painting her face and clothes went smoothly. I quite like how I shaded her eyelids. I remember struggling a bit, but looking back at it now, it looks pretty nice. I also made sure to include her 3 lashes on the top and 3 lashes on the bottom. If I could go back, I would make her lashes longer and thinner to be more true to the original. After I painted over everything, I redid the line art again. I just like the look of line art, it makes it feel more complete. I made sure to not go heavy on it though, cause I did want it to still feel painterly like. And finally, the last thing I did was add the real Memetchi Tamagotchi as a keychain of sorts on her phone. I guess it's more like a little plushie. And yeah, now all that's left was the background, which was really simple. I put a blue box around her and painted clouds in. For the rest of the background, I made it white with this slight texture. The art is now coming to a close here. At first, I wasn't sure if I liked this artwork. I felt like I failed, and it made me kind of sad since Memetchi is one of my favorite Tamagotchis. When I was small, I've always wanted to try and get her. I don't remember if I ever did though. I always got Memetchi, so I kind of resent her. But seriously, looking at the final illustration now, it is not that bad. I quite like it. Is it my best artwork? No, but I definitely put myself down over it too much. She came out cute! And I do think she gives off a Memetchi vibe, which I'm glad for at least. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you want to see me draw more Tamagotchis as people, let me know. Also, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you like and subscribe. I guess I'll go now. Bye bye.